Hello, welcome everybody. My name is Andreas Welsch. I'm an AI advisor, I'm a thought leader, I'm the author of the AI Leadership Handbook, where you can learn the 9 steps of how you can successfully implement AI in your business and turn technology hype into business outcomes. Today, I want to share with you what those 9 steps are in the next 15 minutes as an overview. So let's get started. You know, over the last couple of weeks, we've seen so much talk in the industry, so many CEOs that have said we want to be that our company is AI first. Right? We've heard this from Klarna, we've heard this from Shopify, we've heard it from Duolingo, and guess what that means if you're an employee in that company? All of a sudden you think, well, my role probably has a half-life. Maybe I'm being replaced by some kind of AI or AI agent. It's fine that the company wants to be AI first, but it's not usually very inviting as an individual that is now feeling threatened by this. So AI first, right, does not necessarily mean that you're AI ready. Right? AI first is pretty meaningless unless and until your company and your employees are AI ready. So how do we get there, and what does that even mean? So for me, that means 3 things. Right? First of all, creating fundamentals and the basic awareness among your teams and team members. What is AI? How does it work on a general level, right? Everybody's had ChatGPT, Claude, and similar tools on their phone for 2 years now. So we have some level of understanding in a business already, but how do we actually use this, and how do we use it in a way that it's meaningful? Second one is for managers to empower their employees. I want you to use this, right? It's good, it's important. We need to learn these new technologies. We need to become more effective. We want you to become more productive. And then the third one, also sharing with your team members. If you've found a good prompt, if you found a good tool, if you found something new that's really, really useful. But we know that in reality, in business, it's actually not the case yet, right? These 3 things. To me, something that's really surprising and mind-boggling is that actually for the last 7-8 years, this stat has stayed consistent, right? Many of you might know this already. 80 to 85% of AI projects fail, and it's not because of technology. Right? Technology is one of the least important factors in that failure. What we see why projects fail a lot of times is actually because as technologists, when we get so excited about the technology, we actually stop paying attention as much to the people side. How are people thinking and feeling about this? Are they engaged? Are they on board with this? How can we get them on board? There's a lot about also transforming our processes. Sure, technology plays into it. We need to have the right data. We've heard about many of these aspects already today. But the people aspect, I think, is the most important one that very, very few businesses are actually really good at paying attention to. So AI readiness. It's not something that just magically happens. We're not just magically becoming an AI-first company just because our CEO sends a memo, but we really need to work on this. So we need to provide our team members with guidance, with examples, with encouragement. I want you to use this, right? I want you to see, is there an AI for this that we can use, that you can use? Because only then we will be able to use the real potential of that promised productivity gain that we see. Right? And that creates more and more of that AI literacy, data literacy, digital literacy that we need to see in our business. Right? Innovation is happening faster and faster and faster. If you follow the tech news, there's hardly a week that goes by without any AI lab or large or small software company announcing some kind of a breakthrough. Right? They're all chasing each other. But what does it mean, right? It gets pretty dizzying. But understanding what makes sense, what is real, how can I cut through that noise? That's the important part. So if you're a manager in your organization, ask your team the next time they're doing a task, is there an AI for this? Now, a lot of times, right, we look at this from exactly this angle. Is there an AI for this? An even better way would be to say, how can we improve what we're doing? What are you doing on a daily basis? What are you doing on a regular basis? And maybe in the software that you already use on a regular basis. There's some AI. Right? Over the last 2 years, vendors have been adding AI features into their products left and right. So maybe the way that we're doing things today is the way that we started 3, 4, 5 years ago. is no longer the right way, it's no longer the adequate way to do this. There's a better way. We can use AI features in these products. So there's some interesting studies on this topic. Right? So the National Labor Board found 39% of employees already use AI regularly in their business. But then if you look at a study by Slack at the end of last year, they found 46% of employees are afraid to tell their manager that they use AI. So you have a lot of shadow AI usage, right? People are using tools that maybe are not approved. If you're in IT, right, that's a nightmare. What happens with our data? Is this thing compliant? All these kind of things. But more importantly, from a cultural perspective, why are 46% afraid to tell their manager that they use AI? Guess what? They said, because my manager might think I'm lazy or I'm incompetent. I would argue that these employees are actually quite the opposite. Right? They're at the leading edge. They're looking for ways how we can be more productive. Right? For years, we've encouraged our team members to look for ways to save time, work on problems in different ways. Now they're afraid that they use AI. They're afraid that we as managers, as leaders, might think they're not as effective. Something's wrong, right? So the other interesting point is that actually a little over 30% of employees actively sabotage the AI adoption in their company. Now that might take many different shapes and forms, right? It could be the, I don't want anything to do with this, right? This AI first thing, AI agents, what have you. It's just coming for my job. Leave me alone. I'm just, sitting this out for the next 2 years and then going to retirement, or hopefully it's not as bad as I think it is. To outright refusal, rejection, not using it the right way. So that creates another problem, right? You introduce tools that are supposed to help your workforce, that are supposed to create more value, increase productivity, but roughly a third of your team members say, leave me alone. So as leaders, as managers, also as team members, we need to encourage each other. We need to encourage team members to use AI and learn and figure out how do we use this and how do we use this in the right way. Now, part of this is then also, if you're in a technical function, right, how do we scale this to other parts of the organization? So previously, when I was in leadership roles at SAP, I built a center of excellence and I built a community of practice. Multipliers is what we called them. We had representatives from product management, from engineering, we brought them together. They shared how they are approaching different problems, things that they're working on, what they're seeing with customers, how they're getting data, where they're getting stuck. And in addition to providing a structured curriculum for those that were earlier in their journey, those that already had some experience said, well, we'd rather just have the conversation and learn from others, how are they doing this, right? And then they can take this into their part of the organization, be it HR or finance or procurement or what have you, and share, here are the things that we're doing as a company, here are some ways that we can leverage AI, but they can also bring back information to you if you're in an AI or data leadership role. What is procurement actually thinking about? What are some problems that they are facing that we can help them solve? So really, really powerful to create this multiplier effect and scale across the organization, outside of our data, AI, IT silos. Now, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, when ChatGPT came out, we saw lots of leaders and boards ask, what is our AI strategy? We need to do something, right? And the first step was, well, we saw that we can prompt these models, we get some responses, some of them are more generic, some of them are better, so we give them a little more information. But actually, we know that a lot of the quality of the results we get depends on the data we have. So it all comes back to data. So yes, there's an abundance of data from all different kinds of systems and geographies and parts of the business and what have you. But we actually also know that our data sometimes looks a little like this, right? It's not as clean as we would like it to be. It's not as complete. It's not as fresh. So we actually need to start working there. Now, when I talk to AI leaders, a lot of them tell me, well, my management says we have budget for AI projects, but nobody wants to touch data. Nobody wants to do a data project. What do I do? What I see a lot of leaders do is actually take the data project as a phase 0 and say, well, in order to build our AI product, we need to clean up our data. So there is a little bit of work, or a little more work that we need to do before we're ready. But sneak that in there and benefit from the fact that there is budget available. Now, all of that ties into what are the 9 steps to get your AI program launched successfully. You need to be aware of what are the big trends that are happening in the market. You don't need to know the minutiae of every little detail. What is OpenAI? What is Anthropic? What is Microsoft launching? What are they saying? But what's largely happening in the industry, and what's happening in your industry as well. How do we tie technology and how do we tie AI back to business strategy? What are the KPIs that we are trying to achieve as a company? And how does technology help us do that? Do we have a central leadership role? Who owns AI? Right? Is it a data organization? Is it a technology organization? IT? Is there maybe a transformation, an AI leadership role that is responsible for that? But to centralize the leadership in many cases so that there's one person or one department that owns this. Then take product mindset, right? A lot of times we talk about AI projects. Now projects, they have a start date and an end date, but we know products, what do they have? They have an end user. And once you start shifting your mindset around products and putting the end user at the center, everything changes. Right? All of a sudden we have a roadmap. It's not just a once and done and I throw it over the fence type of thing. Culture and collaboration. Right? A lot of times as technologists, we get so excited about the technology that we now have available, the things that we can build, that we forget that there are actually people on the other side of the business that should use this. And they're really, really knowledgeable about their part of the business. More knowledgeable than we are. So bringing together business leaders, business stakeholders, and technologists, right? That's where the magic happens. We understand what the problem is and how the technology can solve it. Sounds simpler than it is in many organizations. Obviously, ethics, privacy play a big role, security. We've seen many examples over the last 2-3 years where chatbots have gone off the rails, have sold a Chevy truck for $1, have belittled the parcel services, customer service, and what have you. So security is super important, especially when we connect these systems to our own data. So experiment within the 4 walls of our own business before we externalize it. So to summarize, 3 things that are critically important at this point. Whether you're a leader or a team member, be aware of the large trends that are happening in technology and in your industry. You don't need to know the minutiae of everything that is being said and it's coming out on a weekly or daily basis. Focus on people. How can we empower our team members, our colleagues, to use AI in a way that's responsible, in a way that they feel comfortable using and sharing it? Only if they share how they use it, the rest of the organization can learn and can benefit. And yes, at the end of the day, it always comes back to data. So if you'd like to learn more about how you can turn technology hype into business outcomes, I encourage you to check out my book, The AI Leadership Handbook, or follow me on LinkedIn, where I post daily about how you can bring AI into your business. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you very much, Andreas. Really appreciate it. We have a couple minutes and some time for a question or two. I'll make my way front. Any question to kick us off, Andreas? So Andreas, I'll get us started.
Yeah.
So I am curious, you mentioned it's important to stay up on trends, but in some regards, that's a totally overwhelming task.
It is,
easier
right?
said than done.
Yes.
And particularly like kind of curating, right? Like, so
Yes.
how do you focus in? So I wonder if you have any practical advice for how
Sure.
do you find the trends that are relevant to your business?
So I think the simplest one is follow a few sites, a few tech sites, but if you see that certain technologies and concepts continue to be a focus topic over 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, there's probably something to it, right? It's not just we have the latest model, we have the best this or that, but there's something to it, right? And then start learning more about it. What does it mean, right? What does model context protocol mean? What does agent-to-agent protocol and communication mean, right? It's nice that vendors make announcements, but once this really sticks, and we see more of that in the media, then I think it's a good point in time to start learning more about it and experimenting with it.
And Andreas, I know you're very engaged in social media, so are there questions that people most frequently come to you? Like, what kinds of questions do you see people asking the most?
Yeah, so I think at the moment, right, there's a lot of excitement around this topic of agentic AI, and what is that even, and how is it different from generative AI, and how does the term of AI agents fit into it? So in many cases, right, it's a similar, or it's a simple delineation even, right? We have come from systems that have learned from fixed rules. As you know, we've moved on to observing data and patterns in data, and now we're able to generate information. Agents are individual components that can take a goal that you as a user define, but then when you put more and more agents together, or you talk about the kind or the class of technology, right, then we're at AI, at agentic AI, for example, right? So can be basic things like that, but can also be, hey, I have a really difficult stakeholder in the business that doesn't want to collaborate with us, or says AI is just a fad. There's a whole range of things.
You mean it's not just a fad?
At this point, right, if we're more than 6 weeks into it, I don't think it's a fad. I think it's here to stay. Awesome.
Okay, what other questions do we have for yeah. Let me bring it so we can all hear your question.
Thanks, Andreas. Have you seen more or less success with larger and smaller businesses for centralizing versus decentralizing data centers within the organization?
I would say many large organizations have gone through a maturity journey over the last 7-8 years, right? Those that started with machine learning, they are really mature now when it comes to Gen AI. They know where the problems were with machine learning, right? We built this ourselves. Guess what? Building our own foundation models, unless you're a really, really large company and you have something that's really differentiating, you have the data, you probably don't do it, right? So things like that, they've already made their learnings. I think now the next group of organizations is more medium-sized businesses that are still looking at this. Is this AI stuff real? A lot of times I see it be part of the IT remit, which can be good, but can also be challenging in many times, because we know that AI projects are not like any other IT project. They're not linear. So it really depends on where companies are in their maturity. Definitely large ones are there much sooner, but the next batch is just following.
Andreas, how do you know where you are in the maturity spectrum?
So first of all, do you have an AI strategy? Is that strategy tied to your business strategy? How does it support our revenue goals or our cost-saving measures? How can we reduce risk, improve customer service, things like that? Many organizations, especially smaller ones, are starting it at this point, even still. Right? Those that are a little further ahead, maybe they find their AI strategy 2 years ago, and now it's a good time to revisit. Do we really need to build everything ourselves? Can we source this? What have vendors built in the meantime that we can use? Right? So a little more advanced. To how can we build a roadmap of what are valuable AI scenarios that we either want to build, want to buy, want to partner on? So building an idea funnel where you can assess what is really valuable down to what have we shipped is the next step. And then we'd say the third one is, how do we bring our people along? So in terms of upskilling, right? Many organizations have bought in and rolled out Copilot. I would argue Copilot is not your AI strategy, hopefully not the only part of your strategy. But now they ask, well, how do we get our people 20% more productive? So we rolled this out, right? It's about training. And it's not just about, here's a new tool that we want you to use, but here's a new way of how we want you to interact with it. So really changing the mindset and how we interact with software. So depending on where you are on that continuum, strategy, roadmap, upskilling, I think is a pretty good assessment of maturity, at least a very simple one.
Great. Well, I think with that brings us right to time. So Andreas, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.